The DEA has final say. HHS is just a recommendation to the DEA, but they're going to set what the policy is.
Hey everyone, welcome to our latest Trade to Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. It's time to get into today's podcast. Hallelujah! We got some good news in the cannabis space. The summer doldrum days are over. Big announcement to say the least, and stocks are rallying. So let's bring in the gents. Anthony Verrill, good to see you. Probably busy doing some trades today.
It felt nice. It feels it's on. I'm on like a contact. I'm on like a contact high, from like adrenaline from the fucking. This is the first day in a very long time I've actually traded during the day.
Yeah.
Instead of just set it and forget it after like 9:30 in the morning. And it's good to see cannabis stocks moving 20-30%. I mean, MSOX was up like 63% at the high.
63%.
Yeah.
Ben, 2 days off on vacation. You come back to this. Good to see. Yes.
Yeah, I come back to some great news. Actually, it's good to see, and we're going to get into it. But good to see life in the sector. New record high volume on MSOS.
Yeah, it's great. We had a Twitter space actually earlier today with chairman of TerrAscend, Jason Wild, and CEO Ziad Ghanem, which was really, really good. Big turnout where we talked about the elephant in the room. The HHS today recommended rescheduling cannabis and stocks in the sector are rallying. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Service is recommending the U.S. Drug Enforcement, otherwise known as the DEA, that cannabis should be reclassified as a Schedule III controlled substance under U.S. law. So Jason's sentiment was that this is the closest that we've ever been as far as getting this moving to Schedule III. Anthony, do you agree with him?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is real. I mean, I know that we've been jerked around a couple of times, most notably with SAFE, but this isn't SAFE. I mean, this is HHS. Then you get the DEA involved. Then DOJ signs off. The head of the DOJ is appointed by Biden. Biden needs headlines. Biden needs momentum. He needs talking points. I mean, for him, this is a huge win. Cannabis is over 70% socially accepted in this country. This for him is a big win. This for the Democrats is a big win if it gets handled. And I mean, I think I'm aligned with Jason when he says expect something in Q1 2024. It's probably pretty correct timing wise.
Yeah. Ben, you're more risk adverse with a lot of this stuff. What's your take? Do you think that we are we've got something real here?
Yeah, of course you got something real. I mean, this is a major federal department has recommended rescheduling, and it's going to the DEA. So we are definitely close for something to happen. If I were to look at it was reflecting the market, the news. Obviously, MSOS rose about $1, 16-17% territory. So obviously this was really big news, and it is outstanding news. Looking at risk factors going forward. Could the DEA take the low road and only recommend rescheduling to Schedule 2 as opposed to Schedule 3? That would make a big difference. So it's not a set in stone thing yet, but in terms of moving the ball, in terms of catalyzing the sector, it's definitely up there.
So to understand this, the DEA has final say in all this, correct?
The DEA has final say. HHS is just a recommendation to the DEA, but they're going to set what the policy is.
You wonder what's going through their minds if they believe what most cannabis investors and consumers believe in the U.S., that it is time for reform and not Schedule 2, but Schedule 3.
I mean, I don't think HHS does the recommendation without already having soft sign off from the DEA.
You do? You think that?
Yeah. I mean, they need that. This is a political win. I mean, we're starting to get into election season.
Yep.
This is going to be something that is going to be a talking point. It was on the stage front and center at the first Republican debate. You had Vivek Ramaswamy and several other candidates were giving their 2 cents on cannabis. Cannabis is good. Cannabis is not a hot button issue, I don't think cannabis is important in the grand scheme of things in the political landscape or in this country, but it's a talking point, and it's something that people are going to be able to gravitate towards and latch onto as a socially acceptable win, and kind of like a changing of the guard, because you've got Vivek saying we need revolution. You've got a bunch of other people calling for a changing of the guard and a changing of how we do things in this country. The war on drugs, whether or not you want to admit it, it's one of the biggest blemishes on this country, and it's just ruined people's lives. in this country, and it's about time that they've done something about it. So I mean, I really do think that this time it's for real.
So the first debate that was in Milwaukee last week, I heard them talk about opioids. Cannabis was brought up because I missed that.
Yeah, cannabis and psychedelics were brought up from Vivek.
Really, I missed that part.
Yep,
What do you?
psychedelics being available for veterans, and then cannabis as well.
Hmm.
Not being available for veterans, but having the regulatory landscape shift.
So I know in the spaces that you brought up the question to Jason Ben about the possibility of a Schedule 2, and he said this would be a major black eye if that were the case. Do you want to maybe elaborate on what he meant by that? And indeed, this would be because fentanyl just got rescheduled to a Schedule 2. And I think, to your point, Anthony, there's been some sign off potentially by the DEA that says, like, we can't, pull the wool over people's eyes any longer. It's time for this to be a Schedule 3 or higher, correct?
Yeah, it would be a black eye because obviously it doesn't deserve to be where fentanyl is located right now. I mean, it's a big joke. I mean, obviously fentanyl is killing more people on the opioid side than any other drug in America right now. About 70,000 people last year, and cannabis kills no people. So obviously it shouldn't be there. I'm just in the coming weeks, I'm going to try to parse to see how political this actually is, because I don't know how much political pressure is going to be put on the DEA to get this through, to get
Yeah.
this to Schedule 3. I don't have any indications that the two agencies have really talked to each other. I mean, the DEA is a big federal, bureaucracy on itself, and there are a lot of jobs at stake. A lot of their enforcement power went into stopping marijuana at the border, for example, and went into that drug. So there's going to be some big changes in that agency if it were to be rescheduled that way. So I think that's sort of the big thing that I'm going to be looking at going forward. How much political pressure is going to be exerted? Whether the two agencies have really talked to each other? Is this even a political, win for Biden and the Democrats? Because cannabis is probably 10 to 15 on the issue of voters, and
Yeah.
he's done his job as far as I'm concerned. He said that he would get this to recommend. He would
Yeah.
get a review recommendation, and he's done that. And now I don't know if this is on Biden with anything happens going forward or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Schedule 2 also puts him in a fire. Schedule 2 puts him in a firing squad on the debate stage, because then you're easily just going to be like, okay, well, so you've rescheduled cannabis to Schedule 2 with fentanyl. Like, why
Yeah,
even
but the thing
bother?
is, it's not Biden. It's not Biden
I
making that
know,
call,
but
right? It's
but it's
the
Biden's
Biden
guy.
did his.
But it's
Go
Biden's
ahead.
guys that are going to final. It's Biden's appointees that are going to have final sign off.
Yeah, but it's the DEA appointed. Yeah, it's the DEA appointed
DOJ,
Biden.
after the DEA does it, DOJ is going to have to do the final sign off,
Right.
which the head of the DOJ is appointed by Biden.
Right.
But it's the head of the DEA appointed by Biden, because they're going to make the call whether it goes to Schedule 2 or
I'm
3.
pretty sure that's an appointment.
It's a good question.
Just like the
Yeah.
director of the FBI or the director of the CIA. I'm pretty sure it's an appointment.
Right. Okay. That
Leave
would make a
comment
difference, I
below if
think.
you know. Leave a comment below if you know. Well, one thing's for sure. Stocks rally. They love this news. Trulieve up 25% on the day. Curaleaf up 20% on the day. We saw 1.3 in trade volume in the morning and record levels of 2.8 million for TerrAscend on the day. Your lottery ticket that you said last week, Anthony, Ayr Wellness up almost 30% on the day. So you were making some moves today.
I bought more. I chased it. I freed up some liquidity and I put some more cash to work with in AYR. I mean, I think it's got the most. It's got one of the best risk reward profiles out there. I mean, if you're in a tier 1 MSO like a GTI or a Trulieve or even a Verano, I mean, it's probably a 3x, 4x bull case scenario. I mean, Ayr, I feel like it's probably a 10x from here. Just the markets that they're in. Yeah, and this is no. By all means, don't buy it. Like, this is not financial advice. This is me acting in my own best interest. I mean, how I'm investing in the space. I mean, I've watched a lot of these cannabis runs. I mean, I've watched a lot of these penny stock runs. I'd rather probably have my portfolio heavily weighted to more of like a moonshot, versus one of the safe moves in the space, because I firmly believe Ayr, with the business that they built and the way they're restructuring the balance sheet and the way that their growth catalysts are on the horizon, like, I want to take a swing and hopefully hit a home run.
Yeah.
Double would be great, but I'll take the home run.
One of the things that you brought up in the spaces, in case people missed it, Ben, was we looked at Jason saying we could potentially see rescheduling if everything all goes well by Q1 of 2024. So in the event that does what happened, what then happens to 280E?
Yeah, 280E would be repealed essentially because it's already in the laws in the books that if you're not a Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 drug, then you're not subject to that tax. So nothing really has to happen, and that's sort of the good news.
Yeah.
If cannabis is not a Schedule 1 or 2 drug, then the 280E does not apply, and that, of course, would go towards on the financials of all the multi-state operators in subsequent quarters. So that is a big event, as Jason said, or as Ziad said, the chief operating officer. He said that it would free up about $30 million in taxes that they wouldn't have to pay. So that's a huge amount of money. That puts them into cash flow positive territory, which they already are right now. That puts them probably in a net income positive territory as well, or very close to it. So we're talking about huge benefits for all these multi-state operators.
Just to correct you, Ziad's the CEO, not chief operating officer. But outside of TerrAscend, if we see, well, first off, governments want that 280E. They're getting money. Do you think that has any kind of influence on whether this gets rescheduled to a Schedule 3?
Not really, because I mean, just like what Jason said, I mean, this is cannabis taxes are a rounding error for the federal government. Like, yes, Uncle Sam likes getting their money, but at the same time, like they don't even see these numbers. Like it's insignificant. It's very significant to us, and it's very significant to these operators. But in the grand scheme of things, it is truly a rounding error.
Yeah.
For what's going on. That being said, 280 is going to go away. I do think there will be some sort of incremental federal tax that's still applied, but I don't think it's going to be as restrictive on the companies as what 280 is. They're going
to get their money back anyway, because if this opens up businesses all over, there's going to be more sales taxes and more everything. So they'll get some of it back by opening up the market, which this might do, because it does more than going to Schedule 3. It does more than just 280E. It probably opens up credit cards now. Now that's not a federally illegal drug.
Write-offs will be a huge thing, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's being able to actually leverage the tax code, being able to expense business expenses, being able to more efficiently run your company.
Yeah.
280 going away will do wonders for these companies' balance sheets.
Yeah, that's not a tax in itself. It's the ability to now take advantage of like small business write-offs and write-offs that normal businesses have.
I mean, I can't wait to see the first earnings report for Trulieve, GTI, Verano, TerrAscend post 280E, because those are going to be impressive numbers.
You imagine what this market will do if this is announced the day that it is rescheduled to a Schedule 3 and 280E goes away. Like, I know we've talked about safe banking, but this is at the forefront. I think people understand that loud and clear now, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely. I mean, this is paradigm shifting. It's earth shattering. It's whatever you want to call it to hype it up. I memean, yeah, it fundamentally changes the entire industry.
And Q1 2024, not that far away. Even Ben's excited, which is great.
Yeah, I'm excited because I think it sets the market. It sets the bottom in the market in a lot of ways, right? Like, even if we get some pullback here, now we have that catalyst out in front of us. There's no more speculation. There's no more guessing, because the 280E was probably the single biggest catalyst, probably even bigger than the uplisting ability on the exchanges. Yeah. And by going to Schedule 3, you're no longer a hardcore illicit drug. You're now something akin to a pharmaceutical. And that opens up listings as well. So we can't forget that, right? You're just unlocking Pandora's box into much better things like uplisting and credit card to enter the space, credit, buying on credit, and that opens up markets, and then that means more revenue, and hopefully that offsets some of the tax losses that governments are not getting.
What I found
and I mean, one thing, go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say what Jason mentioned about TerrAscend and how it would only take weeks pertaining to already being listed on the TSX and having the proper requirements of being listed on an exchange like that, and the requirements that need to be met to be listed on, say, a NYSE or a NASDAQ. But, I don't want to make this specifically about them, but things will move fast, which is really, really encouraging, because once one goes, then it's going to open up the floodgates to others, which is very, very encouraging for the industry.
Yeah, I mean,
that's absolutely true.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great. One thing that I'm actually thinking about now, which would be interesting, is watching the way that these companies leverage this newly found free cash flow within the business. I mean, one thing that we all harp on very much so is the debt that's sitting on these businesses. And if we're talking 280 going away can generate up to 100 million for some of these, 200 million for some of these companies in free cash on an annualized basis, I want to see them pay down the debt,
Mhm.
because the debt overhangs on these companies need to go away, and they need to go away fast.
You don't think I
Um,
would think that, well, that's me, but I would think that would happen and happen relatively quick.
no, I mean, why they? I mean, some of these companies are going to want to hold on to that free cash for capex needs. I mean, what I don't want to see is companies doing some sort of buybacks and not paying down their debt. I mean, the debt will come to roost at some point or another. But it's going
I
to be
think the
interesting to see.
companies have learned their lesson with buybacks. What happened? The few
Yeah.
companies
Yeah,
that did it,
yeah.
4 or 5 quarters ago.
You
But
don't think the IRS comes knocking?
For what?
what do you mean?
I'm just saying with regards to if this is rescheduled to a Schedule 3 and it's a proper industry and there's all these things that come into play where write-offs take place, like, do you think the IRS would basically say, "Okay, we've waited long enough, pay us and pay us now"?
Yeah, they probably are going to want their money for companies that are withholding tax payments. If I was one of the companies, I would probably want to get out of the way and get out of the purview
Yeah.
of the IRS and just settle up, move forward, and be done with it. And then
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about 280 ever again.
Question we always get asked, and we learned this in spaces earlier this year with lobbyist Don Murphy, is any kind of influence from big pharma on whether or not they could, I guess, block or have any influence on this being rescheduled, which is so far from the truth. And what we've learned, Ben, from Don Murphy is that big pharma just does not care, which was a breath of fresh air, right?
Yeah, I don't think so too. I used to be in that camp to think that maybe big pharma behind the scenes is kind of stifling the industry somehow because of the sleeping pill, and certain things that cannabis could help that might knock their drugs out of the market. But yeah, I don't think so. As time has gone on, I mean, it's such a small percentage of their individual offerings, and when a lobbyist like Don, who's very close to the ground, has ear to situation, says that, then I think that we could probably go on his word that he's not
Yeah.
hearing anything around Congress or anything like that. Then it's probably not a big deal. So
Yeah.
I don't think big pharma is really stifling the industry at all, even though it is one of the bigger conspiracy theories amongst investors at the present time.
Keep it open mind and we learn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
big. I don't think big. I'm fully aligned with Ben. I don't think big pharma cares
Do not
at all.
care whatsoever.
No.
That's what we've learned. Trying to think of anything else I wanted to touch on. So Q4 predictions. We saw going into the close today that there was no selling. So it'd be interesting to see how this will perform tomorrow and for the remainder of the week. But I don't see this topic dying anytime soon. Like if we're looking at Q1, I see a lot of momentum building in this industry over Q4. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, it should. It should.
I think so.
Definitely should. Let's hope the macro and the broad market stays intact. The last thing we need is these tailwinds and facing a broad market collapse or some sort of crisis.
Yeah.
Barring that, I mean, I think it's definitely not going to be smooth sailing. I mean, I'm expecting ups and downs,
Yeah.
even then going into more positive news.
Which makes sense. I know this
Yeah.
rescheduling announcement has no impact whatsoever on the states level, but is there any kind of, I guess, feather in the cap or positive outlook on rec somehow, some way, passing, or DeSantis or whomever makes, the final decisions with other voters within the final decisions if it makes the ballot of rec going legalized in the state of Florida?
I hate to say this, but I don't think I don't think it gets on the ballot.
Even if a rescheduling, you don't think that helps
There's
whatsoever?
absolutely no there's no there's no correlation between the two.
There's no correlation between the two. So how does that set up? How does it get on the ballot then in Florida?
It gets enough signatures and it gets passed through the Florida legislature, and it gets put on the ballot. I mean,
Right.
but it's you gotta realize culturally in Florida, you've got Miami and you've got Fort Lauderdale, and then it's the South. Like it's a southern state. It's
And then
not a progressive blue culturally. enlightened state. Florida is very southern.
What's the approval rating? Anybody? Do you guys know to legalize cannabis? Isn't like 70%
In
of
the state of
Americans?
Florida, I think it's polling at over 60%
Huh.
to go adult use.
Nationally, it is
Nationally,
over
it's
70% with the Democrats. It's about
yeah,
57% with the Republicans. Overall, you're looking at the high 60s, I think.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very
Majority.
popular nationally.
Yeah.
Everybody wants this. And that's the frustrating thing that, it's been this whole time. This is wanted. This is not a political football, or it shouldn't be. I mean, people want this on both sides of the aisle.
I know. Good day to say the least. I think that's pretty much it for now. I don't know if there's anything more to discuss, but looking back at again, 30%, almost 30% of Ayr Wellness. What a day for them. But Trulieve again, 25, Curaleaf 20, TerrAscend had record-breaking volume. So the big boys are coming out to play. So we'll watch this closely for the rest of the week. Let us know what you think of not only the podcast, but the announcement. Are you excited about the industry again? Leave a comment below. Let us know if there's any questions you want to ask. We'll reach out to our network and we'll get back to you with any insightful information that you want to know about next steps pertaining to the HHS possibly rescheduling cannabis to a Schedule 3 drug. Gents, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll check back in with you tomorrow.
You as well. Talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks.
What's up, everyone? So what'd you think of the interview? Are there any more questions you want us to ask? Then leave a comment below on information that you want to learn more of. Make sure to share this video with your network and smash that like button. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.